hopefully, I would like to address the ridiculous excuse that we hear from Mr. Elon Musk. I'm not about to say anything spectacular or, I mean, this should be basic logic, right? But unfortunately, we have a lot of people today that don't have the capacity for even basic logic. So the excuse is, like Elon Musk very confidently said, hey man, we're gonna make mistakes, right? And then when we make mistakes, we're gonna correct them, right? I hear people saying, if you move quickly, you're gonna break things, right? It's just the nature of the game, right? So it's kind of like it's downplaying what's happening. Okay. I think those are two different positions. I'm gonna address the first one, that we're gonna make mistakes. So you've hired me to plan parties at elementary schools, right? That's my job. I'm gonna plan parties at elementary schools, right? In my planning, maybe I get a short deadline, right? I rush and I find some people who I'm like, hey, this guy looks good, and he's a clown or whatever, and I pull the trigger. All right, man, when can you start, right? And I get a whole bunch of parties planned pretty quickly, right? And then it comes out that one of the people that I hired to do the parties happens to be a child maluser. I think you know what I mean, right? Oh my goodness. So fortunately, in this case, I do the right thing and I go and I fire this person right away, right? And I say, well, mistakes are gonna happen. We're moving quickly. But then you look and you find out that I wasn't doing any background checks at all whatsoever. That's not something like an oversight, right? That's not an oversight. That's not a, mistakes will happen, right? You're planning children's party. One of the first things, you gotta vet who you're bringing in around these kids, right? I mean, an oversight is you didn't hire enough clowns, right? An oversight is you didn't consider the age of the kids, and maybe this clown is better for like teenagers versus 10-year-olds, right? That's an oversight. But to not even vet the people in terms of basic background checks, people that you're going to have in schools around children, that's not how mistakes will happen, right? Now imagine if you make a mistake like that seemingly almost every day, right? That's not, people make mistakes, no one's perfect, right? Imagine, think, I don't know, it's a shame that I have to even explain stuff like this. Imagine wherever you guys work. Imagine that, I know wherever you work, there's problems. Every company's got problems, right? And they hire someone to aggressively, like people have been doing a little thing here and there, and it's like, no, we need to aggressively fix this issue, whatever the issue is at your company. They hire someone and they are doing things without approval from management, right? They just come in and decide on their own, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They're not really making any effort whatsoever to sort of mitigate risk, right? There's not even an attempt. It's not like they're attempting to do it the right way, right? They just come in and they're like, you do this, and we're gonna fire these guys, and then we're gonna hire a whole bunch of new water, and let's paint up all these walls, and we're gonna put in new flooring, and and it's just kind of like, just haphazard. And because it's haphazard, every day there's a major failure, right? They go and they order a whole bunch of paint, paid for a whole bunch of paint, right? Very expensive. And then they start painting half the building, right? And then the corporate guys come in and they're like, this is not our color. You can't have our buildings painted in a different color. The buildings are supposed to be, there's a code or whatever. It's supposed to be a certain color. The building needed painting, but you can't just get up and change the color of our stores, right? The color of our stores is part of our branding. All that paint that you painted on the walls, you can't return that, right? So you took a big loss on buying stuff, and that's not just that things happen where you make mistakes. If you're gonna do and then the idea that it's because of fast. Doing things quickly is not an excuse to doing things recklessly, right? Quick doesn't mean reckless, right? Reckless is reckless. Quick doesn't mean reckless. Quick does mean typically you're not going to be able to be as safe as if you do things at a more moderate pace. So yes, when you do things quickly and aggressively, your sort of error rate or the rate of mistakes is going to increase, right? But if you're doing it quickly and more importantly recklessly, so you're not really taking any time at all to consider risks and do things in a methodical way, right? Fast but methodical, right? And remember, you're not supposed to be a genius. So the stuff I'm saying, right? I'm not a genius. People say he's a genius. I'm not a genius. If I can figure these things out, he should be able to run circles around me. So he should be able to figure out, and it's not that he's not doing something that's monumental. You look at their man, I'm getting old. His rocket company, SpaceX, and rocket science is the big deal. He's not doing rocket science. It's not rocket science, right? So him as a genius should be far more capable than I am about figuring out a strategy to operate quickly and aggressively, but yet still having some kind of safety, right? This is the way that you operate in an intelligent, thoughtful manner, right? Also innovative, right? Outside the box, right? You look at government, they're very inefficient, right? There's a lot of bureaucracy, right? Maybe there's a lot of red tape, to request something, you have to put in a request, and then it has to go to this person to get approved, and they have to put it onto something else, and then there's a whole thing where it needs to be screened or whatever. Now, someone who's operating intelligently, not even genius level, just intelligently, but is in a mode of innovation, right? We need to get this thing done fast. We got to cut this red tape, get it done, right? Their thought process, if they're using intelligence, is not let's get rid of all the approval process, because they realize the importance of having an approval process and the dangers of not having one, right? So their thought process is, how can we make the approval process more efficient? Not replace it completely. How can we make it more efficient? Why do we need to send it to this guy and that guy and then somebody else and then wait a week and then write a 10-page report? No. Let's do a 1-page report and let's have only one layer of approval. We don't need all these other people, right? That's the intelligent process of, I want to be aggressive, I want to be fast, but I'm also not trying to be reckless. Like, being fast doesn't mean reckless. It's not the same thing, right? You can be fast, efficient, and also operate with some kind of strategy where you're using some kind of, common sense, right? So it's, let's streamline the approval process, make it much, much faster, right? Maybe there's certain things that are low risk that don't really need much of an approval. Maybe we'll designate that for those things, we do the fastest approval process. All we do is we ping the president and we get a green light from him, just thumbs up, thumbs down, right? Hey, Mr. President, we want to order printers for our operation so we could print out inventory of whatever it is, right? President's like, thumbs up, and that's it. Approved. We go ahead, we do it. Why do we allow that much faster, the fastest approval process? Because the risks are low, right? If it's just something like you're buying printers, the cost of printers is not a big deal, right? But if you're going to do something like shut down an entire program or try to shut down an entire agency, where if you do it wrong, the risks are massive, you can't just not have an approval process, right? And you can't do that expedited, like thumbs up, thumbs down, something so casual. You don't have to do a long process if there is one, right? You just need to have a more expedited approval process, right? So to not think about these things, right, where you analyze, and this is the billionaire, he has all the money in the world, right? He could literally hire hundreds of people, the smartest people in the country, right? He could build the smartest team, and not a bunch of, I don't care how smart these kids are, right? There's exceptions, but the likelihood that these guys have what it takes to really be your real team. I mean, maybe technically they're young or whatever, right? But they should not be the core of your team. They should be like, you know, an asset on your team, right? You have like these coders that are really smart, but the real movers and shakers should be seasoned veterans, right? I don't say you got to be some old guy, right? You could be 30 years old, relatively young, but you've been around in doing stuff for at least a decade, right? You have a lot of experience, you have the maturity, you have wisdom, you have leadership skills, you have the things that are needed, right? He could hire hundreds of these people, right? And he's got all the money he wants. He could use AI. So many things are available. Like, there's no excuse for this, right? He has so much, like I could do a much better job not being a genius and not having all these resources. So there's no excuse for what he's doing. It's just insanity. This guy could come up with the craziest system that I would not even think about, because again, it's not just him, because if he's genius, he would bring in some of the top people, right? And those people, they're really smart and they know things I don't know, right? They know all, so they, like, you bring in people that they have an expertise in how to do aggressive, like, project management or something like that, right? That's a thing that they studied all the different methods, right? There's different techniques that you can use to expedite going through a project, right? And they know all the pros and cons of each one, right? So they're smart enough to know, like, okay, apply this to government perspective. You know, these two are probably the best ones, and they could make a presentation to Elon Musk or whoever. Hey, so listen, I think you want to use the scalability jump program, you know, whatever, some fancy name, right? Because again, these things have been studied. There are people who know about how to do things, in an aggressive manner. I mean, project management, leadership. These are not new things. You're not inventing the wheel, right? So they could go and say, hey man, I propose that we use this structure. We're gonna make a hybrid approval process, right? One of the most efficient ways to approve big projects that we found is to do X, Y, and Z. But the government's a little bit different because of X, Y, and Z. So we made a slight modification. But with this, we can move the approval process from 1 month to just a few days. But we have an approval process, right? Which is gonna safeguard against obvious and easy errors that we can avoid. None of that's being done. It's just fire. Yeah, just oh, we found fraud. Oh, it's 800 billion. No, it's 800 million. Oh, let's get rid of these guys. Oh, those are the nuclear guys. We'll bring them back. It's so bad that I think anybody paying attention, they're numb to it. You just expect that every day there's going to be some big failure, right? So what's the result? The result is we've taken a government that is inefficient and has a lot of problems, and we've replaced the way our government operates with something even more inefficient and even more broken. Our government does not have a failure rate anywhere near Elon Musk. When have we ever seen our government putting out reports where almost everything on it is just totally wrong, right? Mixing up billions with millions, right? When have we seen that? On a daily basis, just like haphazard. When have we ever seen our government going out there and, you know, they fire a bunch of people and then they have to bring them back and all this kind of stuff? And it's just like, it's not novel. It's not like, you know, oh my goodness, what's happening here? It's just kind of like, it's a normal day. Like, that's not something that we've ever seen in our government. So it's like, you may not like, how things have been run in the government, but it's like the way things are now, it's not an improvement. It's much worse, right? I see Danny in the house. Narcissistic sociopaths often get into high positions. Most of them are better in pretending to be normal people and are more intelligent. Musk and Trump aren't even good in pretending to be normal. So that's the first one. It's kind of like you're gonna go on a road trip in the desert, right? And you're trying to be quick about it, right? And you kind of hurriedly jump in the car and you just start driving, and you end up 100 miles in the middle of nowhere. And you take a break and you're like, hey, let's get some food. And the guy's like, I don't have any food. He's like, what are you talking about? You didn't bring any food? Yeah, I was rushing. I forgot. Okay, you got water? Water. Oh yeah, we should have gotten water. Listen, man, rushing is not the same thing as being reckless. Let me tell you what rushing on a trip like that looks like, right? I mean, if you take your time, you can be more methodical and careful, and you can have a much higher, whatever I want to say, in lowest level of mistakes, right? But let me let you know what rushing looks like for someone that has some level of intelligence, right? Rushing on a desert road trip. Rushing on a desert road trip. Not being reckless, just rushing. What it looks like is you brought only 5 gallons of water because you made a mistake in your calculations, and you actually need 7 or 8 gallons of water, right? You made a mistake. There was an original plan to go to some place, and that plan was changed, right? And now with the new destination, you actually need more water, and you didn't bring enough, right? You would never, rushing and using some intelligence, go on a desert trip with no water at all and no food at all. That's the thing. It's not even just like one thing, because, things happen, right? But one of the first things anybody that's even trying to be successful on a trip like that, one of the first things you're thinking about is gas, food, and water. If you're gonna go out in the desert, right, that should be the first thing on your mind. We're gonna be out there in the middle of nowhere. We need food and water, right? How do you not have any? That's not being fast. That's being reckless. Being reckless is you miscalculated the amount of water, the amount of food, right? You brought food for 3 people and there's 4 people. But we're gonna be all right because you actually did the basics, right? We're not gonna spend the whole hours online researching like what's the best technique and what's the best food to bring. And see, that's the doing it at a normal pace, right? At a normal pace, you can achieve really high standards. But if you're rushing, you can't get those standards. So you're not gonna have necessarily the best food. You're not gonna have necessarily the best calculation of how much food that you're supposed to bring, right? You may not realize that, so I don't know, some little nuanced thing, right? But you're gonna do at least some kind of risk mitigation, even rushing. So at a minimum, if I'm going on a desert trip, I'm getting a checklist, right? I'm getting a checklist. It doesn't take any time to do a checklist. What are we bringing with us? Food, water, extra gas, maps. What about internet connectivity? Do we need to bring like a water? How many people are we bringing on a trip? Like spending at least 10, 15 minutes on a checklist. Listing the stuff, check boxes, right? Maybe you double the check boxes. So you double check, right? So when you do the checklist, you get everything together and you check it off. Check, 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 check. That don't take no time. And that's something I just came up with just now. That's not some like magical thing or genius plan, but it's something I could come up with just now on the fly, right? Checklist of items, double check boxes. So once we get everything, right? We check it off, check, 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 right? So supposedly we have everything we need. That's what the checklist says. But before we actually leave, we double check. That's what the second row of checks are for, right? So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna run through the checklist again. And when I go through the second time, I say, Johnny, why did you check off 5 gallons of extra gas? I only see 2 here. Oh, snap. And we correct that, right? So we're able to get on the road fast, right? We're outside the box. We're not sticking with, this is the way it should be done and this and that. And you should never go on a road trip without doing X, Y, and Z. Like, we're not following all the rules. And maybe they say you should, just in case, this really being safe, when you're going on a long road trip in the desert, you should get your body in shape. So spend at least a week of exercising, whatever. There might be some stuff like that they say. There might even be some techniques about changing your diet in advance of this because of the heat, or who knows, right? But we're rushing, so we're gonna miss out on those things that may have helped us. But we're gonna get the core stuff right, the most important things right, because we're going to at least try. Rushing is not being reckless. Reckless and rushing is not the same thing, right? We can rush out to the desert and still do our checklist in 15 minutes doing the checklist, right? Check it once, check it twice, and then we go out of the road, and it's not perfect, right? Like we're gonna make mistakes, but the mistakes we make are minor, right? No, we're not gonna bring. Anyway, sorry. So our mistakes are minor, right? So we don't have a bunch of crazy stuff, and it's not gonna be every time you turn around like, oh, you didn't make the spare tire? Oh man! An hour later, hey, where's the extra gas? Oh, I forgot. Oh man! Another hour later, hey man, where's the water? Oh, I didn't bring the water. Oh man! An hour, 5 minutes later, hey, well, where's the food? Oh, I didn't bring the food. Oh man! Right? Another hour later, hey, look at these tires. These tires are no good. You didn't change the tires? Oh man! That's what Elon Musk is doing, right? Elon Musk is, government is slow and it's inefficient and we gotta be efficient. So everybody just get in the truck, let's go. But what about, should we check? We don't need that, just get in the truck, let's go. We're gonna go on a road trip. It's a road trip. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I'm a genius. We're geniuses. Let's go, right? Hey man, let's get a bunch of young kids. These kids are smart. Let's bring a bunch of young kids to help us plan our road trip. Hey, they've never been on a road trip like this. They don't know nothing about going on the desert. It doesn't matter. They're smart. They'll figure it out. Everybody just get in the truck. Shut up. Get in the truck and let's go. 100 miles later, you're in the middle of the desert with no water, no food. And people are looking at you like, you're insane. And you're like, hey, we're going to make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, we correct them. Like, what? Really? I mean, you have a job interview, right? And instead of you reading through the job description and doing any kind of preparation, efficiency, right? So you just like look at the job title and you make assumptions about what the job entails, right? And then you show up and they're asking you questions relevant to the job description and you're just kind of like, oh. And then people are like, what are you doing, dude? And you're just like, well, I'm gonna make mistakes. That's not making mistakes, it's being reckless. How are you gonna go on a job interview and you don't spend the time to at least go through the job description? Right? Even if you're trying to be super efficient, I'm a genius and I don't want to go, people say you should spend the whole week doing let's do all that, man. Right? I'm gonna just look at the job title, assume what the job role entails, and now I'm gonna go there prepared to demonstrate that. Being fast is not being reckless. Right? You can be fast and reckless, or you can be fast and smart. Elon Musk and Doge are not fast and smart. They're just reckless. I don't know if I even want to give it credit for being fast, right? It's reckless. It's just reckless. Right? You want to know the most efficient way to cross the street? Let me tell you, let me open your eyes up. I'm gonna tell you the most efficient way to cross the street is to just bolt, right? Just bolt, bam! Oh, I didn't see that car coming. That's the most efficient way. It takes time to be like, look to the right, look to the left. Right? What's time for that? Just bolt, man. If a car is coming, they're gonna see you, they're gonna stop. Nobody's trying to kill you. Don't be ridiculous, man. Let me tell you how you cross the road in an efficient way, in an intelligent way. I ain't a genius, so I can't give you the genius way, but I'll give you the intelligent way. Right? Intelligent, unorthodox, out the box, fast way to cross the street. Once again, you don't remove risk mitigation. You don't remove the things, the caution, the due diligence. You just compact it, you make it more efficient. So this is what we do, right? Most efficient way to cross the street is, and this is off the top of my head, right? Either it's a 3-man team thing, right? So you have one guy on the left, one guy on the right, right? And then it's boom. They both look on both directions at the same time, and they say go, and then you bolt across. And what do you know? You didn't get hit, right? It's not perfect. If you jumping across the street real quick, it's still not as safe as taking your time. So even with those two guys, a miscommunication. You're not giving these guys a lot of time, and it looked like it was clear and it wasn't clear. So you can still get hurt, but the odds are much lower than you just bolting without looking. Oh, we don't have to waste time with that, right? You figure a way to do the safety stuff in a faster, more efficient way. You don't just eliminate the safety, right? Even as a one-man thing, what's the fastest way? I would think you have some kind of a mirror, right? I could walk around with a ball. Imagine like those blind spot mirrors for like your driveway or something. So it's a ball, a globe that's a mirror, right? And I'm holding it on a stick, right? So I can hold this thing up, so I don't have to spend time looking this way and looking that way. I can be looking forward where I'm going, and at the same time I can see both sides, right? And bolt across the street and don't get hit. Right? That is what it would look like. Elon Musk being smart and genius. Stuff like that. Like, who would have thought of that? Right? Who would have thought, oh, he got the globe with the mirror thing. He didn't remove the safety. He just did it in a smarter way that's more efficient. Right? The government was like, oh, you want to cross the street, you gotta put a report about what street you're crossing and why you're crossing it, and then you have to fax it over, not even email, you gotta fax it over to this number, and maybe the number's busy or whatever it is. Sometimes you gotta wait, and then you gotta wait until somebody goes to the fax machine and sees the fax, and then they have to go and read it, and then if you're making a mistake, they'll call you back and say, hey, you gotta send another form, and then when you send it back, they might say another mistake again, and then if you get it right, then that person takes the form and they walk it over to this other person who might not be in his office, put it in his box, and then we wait until he shows up the next day. He comes in, he might look at it, but he's got other stuff to look at, and then before you know it, 3 days have gone by and we can't cross the street, right? That's what government might be doing. Doge is like, we don't need all this, right? We're gonna take accountability for our own actions. We're gonna get the globe mirror, right? We're gonna have the globe mirror. So we're going to take on the responsibility of doing this right and safe and fast. We're not replacing the safety of all the stuff the government was trying to do. We're not just, I'm saying, we're not just like removing that objective of being safe. We are making we're making the mitigation, the safety procedures, we're making them compact and more and faster. So you have a guy with the globe thing, and maybe as a backup, he's got a live stream video, right? With a 360 camera, right? So you can quickly make a decision to cross the street by looking forward. You're seeing both directions. And what you don't see, the guy that's looking on the live stream on your 360 camera, he might catch. Because maybe the globe, it's distorted the image, something small, a motorcycle, electric motorcycle or something, and you didn't see it. There's the glare in the camera or whatever, right? But you have the backup of a guy who's watching on 360 camera, and just before you bolt, he says, wait, and then you don't get hit. You're able to be safe, right? Mitigate risks, right? But you do it in a much faster, more efficient way. Dodge, government efficiency, right? Like, where's the efficiency in just like, okay, fire, you're fired, let's cancel this. Oh, 800 billion. No, it's 800 million. Oh, fire these people. Oh, it's actually the nuclear people, bring them back. Oh, the food, we don't need it. Oh, but the food's on the bed. That's not really. You can't just say, you know, you're gonna make mistakes when you're doing something almost in a way to intentionally. I'm not saying he's doing it intentionally, but I'm just saying it's so reckless. It's reckless. Right? You're going on a trip to a country, right? And you don't have a lot of cash on you. Or what? It's just basic stuff, man. Think about anything that you do, right? And the normal stuff you do to be safe, right? The idea that you just completely skip those things and just, you know, whatever, and what happened, you say, well, mistakes. Anyway, on that note, hey, Danny, Musk probably does more than just, that's the other thing, man. You got a guy that's walking around looking like, you had Giuliani that was a drunk, and people still, Giuliani, yeah, he's saving America. You got a billionaire who's all, and it's just like, he's a genius, yeah, he's a genius, he's saving America. Who else? I think Bodaramo was another drinker. You got wannabe Epstein, what's his name? Matt Gaetz. You got new generation Epstein, Tate brothers. Oh, they're patriots and this and that. They're real men and blah, blah, blah. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell, and give me a like for me sitting here letting my breakfast get cold, talking to you guys. This is my breakfast that I'm eating at lunchtime because I was up until 2:30 in the morning planning for a big meeting that I have tomorrow. That's a major deal. And I'm going to spend my whole day today preparing for it. And I haven't even had breakfast yet, and it is lunchtime in 2 minutes. So give me a like for spending my time with you guys, letting my food get cold when I have really big and important things to do. But this is important too as well. Anyway, until next time. Good to see you, Daddy. Always appreciate the support, man. Hope everything's well with you. I know the craziness that we're doing over here affects the world, so unfortunately, it's probably gonna touch you guys to some degree, most likely. But what you gonna do?